Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a potential meta core breaker that I've been testing out for a few days in the Open Great League, and that is Hakamo'o. Now you may be wondering why I'm using Hakamo'o, and that's because due to its dragon fighting typing, it not only fully walls off the charge moves of Shadow Drapion, but it also walls Golisopod and Credilli. Three of the Pokemon that I found to be very common safe switches. Add to that the fact that it has a Sucker Punch resist for Furret, another common safe swap, and I thought it could be worth testing out. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and I'm going to be showcasing some of my favorite games over a few days stretch running this Hakamo'o team. Hopping to the first match, leading into a very neutral matchup into Air/Mandibuzz. Considering that I have Shadow for Alligator and Hakamo'o in the back, very nice to catch the Mandibuzz on the lead. Mandibuzz is going to land a charge move, but I can immediately return fire with the Talonflame. Fly is going to connect, that's some pretty significant damage. I do not want to abandon the Talonflame just yet, so I will commit the shield, and now I'll be able to double up on flies, and my opponent has no reason to shield. This does mean that I'm down a shield, but I'll exit with energy, so hopefully I can get the shield back from whatever gets switched in. It's going to be Drapion, and I'm very happy to see this. I know its energy is going to go nowhere into Hakamo'o. We see a shield, and a fly catch onto Alolan Sandslash. Alolan Sandslash, a Pokemon that Feraligatr very much wants to see, so now Feraligatr can hit the field. Feraligatr is going to overfarm slightly, playing to the CMP tie, firing off this Shadow Hydro Cannon. That is going to pick up the knockout, in comes Drapion, and from here I know Hakamo'o will very cleanly be able to close out this game. Crunch will pick up the KO, but Hakamo'o is just a complete wall to Drapion. Drapion can go for the crunch, but it's just not going to matter. Hakamo'o just in far too dominating of a position. Another charge move from the Drapion. They're going to zero bubble it, and that's going to be game over. We move to the next match. Talonflame into Registeel. Opponent safe switches. Oh no. Into Credilli. I get to bank a ton of energy and send in Hakamo'o. So this is the team when it's working as intended. If I'm seeing these common safe swaps and Talonflame is able to win the lead, then I'm probably going to be pretty well set up for success. I'm not 100% sold on Shadow for Alligator as the third. I think the Talonflame Hakamo'o pairing is a pretty interesting one, but I do think there were some games where I definitely felt let down by Feraligatr, just because Feraligatr, if it's down a shield, is basically useless. Here they are going to go for the Rock Tomb. It does not knock out. I'm going to pivot back into the Talonflame and save the energy. I really didn't want to concede a farm down to the Registeel. I would much rather descend in Talonflame because Talonflame is so flexible. Talonflame, I'm more than happy to shield up the Zap Cannon, hoping that I do not get debuffed, but unfortunately the debuff does come through. That means I will actually have to go for a Brave Bird if I want to pick up the knockout since my attack's at -1. Brave Bird can't quite pick up the KO. It's going to be an opposing Talonflame in the back. So I will immediately go for the fly. They are going to no shield, and now Feraligatr hits the field. Opponent tries the CMP tie there, but I'll just take the free Shadow Claw. That means I'm going to get both these shields back from the Talonflame because Talonflame's kind of their only hope of winning out this game. They are going to shield once, but I can get to another move, and I still have a move loaded on Hakamo'o as well. Hydro Cannon is going to be shielded. Switch Clock not yet available, so Feraligatr will get knocked out, but I should just be in a winning position at this point. I do have the Hakamo'o, but it's very low health. I bring in the Talonflame, get the farm down. All that's left is the Registeel, and the opponent will resign the match. Talonflame into Weezing, great lead. Obviously, I have to make sure that I don't let the Weezing get a ton of farm. In comes a Furret safe switch, and I will just go for the fly. Furret doesn't really have a great opportunity to throw on good timing on that switch in, so I just use it to grab an early shield, and now I can send in Hakamo'o. Hakamo'o, I'm very comfortable giving up switch here to my opponent if they want to surrender it, because I do not want to give a farm down to the Weezing, so I will go for an undercharge on the Brick Break, but it actually KOs, and that's a huge mistake by me, and this is the downside of Hakamo'o. When it goes wrong, it goes really wrong. I unfortunately don't even get the Brick Break. I tried to throw in good timing, but the Fairy Wind KO'd, and suddenly we are in a very difficult position as this Weezing's energy is running away with this game. My opponent made a really smart play to not throw their Furret's energy. I tried to undercharge the Brick Break to leave them at 1 HP so that way I could take more damage, but unfortunately, I messed up the undercharge. They got a huge farm, I lost the Talonflame, and now I need Feraligatr to sweep. Ice Beam, one hit KO, maybe there's still a chance. If I can get the double up here with the Feraligatr, but I fall one Shadow Claw short. Even with a big misplay, we made it close in the end, but not close enough as my opponent has the second Brutal Swing loaded. And unfortunately, off of a pretty good lead and a pretty good counter swap, a pretty big error on my part means this game will end in a loss. Talonflame into Corviknight. Talonflame picking up a lot of nice leads. We are going to see a switch out into Sableye, and I actually don't have a Pokemon that can comfortably switch in here. It is going to be the Shadow Sableye. Shadow Sableye did not throw its energy. Instead, they're holding on to all of the energy, and I'm more than happy to play this out with Talonflame. Talonflame, tough call to make here. I will decide to invest a shield. My opponent is going to be firing off another foul play, and I decide to double shield. Realistically, I need to try and keep the Talonflame around. I send in Feraligatr, but I don't get the snipe. I knew they were pretty close to a move, but they're going to land a foul play, and now they're going to send out Credilli. Credilli, I'm going to try and CMP tie here with the Ice Beam because I don't get the Ice Beam on good timing, but they are going to smartly just go for the extra. So now they have a bunch of Credilli energy. It'd be a real shame if I had a Hakamo'o that fully walled it. But what's a real shame is the one-turn bring and lag. I lose a Dragon Tail Sneak, whereas normally I could have CMP tied Brick Break to their next move, and now I cannot, and I'm going to be very heavily debuffed. So that alters the trajectory of this game quite a bit. Clock's up for my opponent. There's the catch attempt, but I'm not going to fall for that. And now things will get a little bit interesting. I'm watching the top right to see what gets brought in here. They bring in Credilli, but I click the button too late. I don't get the move off. This will allow me to bank the energy and snipe with the Talonflame, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But I have been sick for the past few days, so unfortunately, my gameplay has not been as clean as it typically would be. In the back is going to be that Corviknight that we saw on lead, and now I'm just going for the Brave Bird. That's big damage to the Corviknight, and Corviknight's in trouble here. They are just going to get knocked out by a Brick Break unless they leave with a move. They try for an undercharge. They can't quite get it right, and that's a good game. Talonflame into Clodsire, not a great lead for the Talonflame. I'm going to throw 2 Incinerates, safe switch into Shadow Feraligatr. The fact that the throwing energy is amazing for me here. I'm basically just throwing away the Feraligatr as fast as I possibly can. Out comes Furret. I think they definitely would have been better off if they saved the Clodsire energy and brought in the Furret, because Furret is going to do great into Feraligatr. But they wasted a bunch of energy on the Clodsire, and now my Talonflame is more than happy to no-shield a Swift than no-shield a potential Stone Edge from the Clod. I will get to do 1 Incinerate and the Fly, firing off this energy before they make their second Swift. Fly is going to pick up the KO, and will we see the Clodsire re-hit the field? Opponent's waiting the timer. It's going to be Galarian Moltres, and Moltres is going to be met with a Fly. Fly is going to be shielded. There's the switch to Hakamo'o, and now this is where things will get interesting. My opponent has high incentive to bait, but I don't feel like calling it, and I shield an Ancient Power. That is really unfortunate, and now Clodsire is going to re-enter the field. Had I called that, I would have been in such a good spot, but I expected the Brave Bird and dip, and now Hakamo'o is genuinely in quite a bit of trouble. Tough call to make here once again. I shield, and I shield a bait. Both shields in this match going to baits, and a winnable game is slowly slipping out of my fingers. I'm going to fire off the back-to-back Dragon Claws, but I'm going to need to make a catch here. Opponent, they read me like a book. I switch in the Talonflame. I can't make the move as they Sucker Punch down. These sets are a gauntlet, regional champion after regional champion, now going up against Rise. Leading into Pangoro, the fact that he's staying in here, I mean, Pangoro can put up a heck of a fight against Talonflame. If I try and throw on good timing, my opponent will get to a second Night Slash and be able to force a shield. So now I'm at a shield disadvantage, but I'm still going to try for good timing here, and we see a boost. Oh my goodness, back-to-back games that I've played Rise, his Pangoro has gotten a boost. Here he tries to CMP tie me, but I will get the entire Incinerate for free, and now I will get a nice Incinerate farm down. My goodness, I do not like boosted Pangoro. In comes Corviknight, Rise understanding that my energy is walled by the Corviknight, even though it is taking pretty significant damage. I'm going to bank moves on this Talonflame and safe switch into the Shadow Feraligatr. Shadow Feraligatr is going to be hit with a Sky Attack. That does some pretty significant damage, and I want to force the final shield or just knock him out here. Hydro Cannon is going to pick up the KO. In the back, it's Drapion, and this game should be a win, as I have Hakamo'o in the back to just shut this down. Hydro Cannon is going to be no-shielded. He knows that I have a Brave Bird, so he can't afford to shield that, but either way, Hakamo'o was going to wall the energy, and we're able to clutch the win. We move to the next match, Talonflame, Shadow Jumpluff. A great lead, but Shadow Jumpluff energy could prove problematic later on. A Lapras safe switch a little bit stun locks this team. I think that's a real weak spot of this team, is it doesn't have a good answer to Lapras. So Lapras is a consistent issue, and with how powerful this Pokemon is, I really think teams need to have good Lapras checks. Here I'm going to send in the Feraligatr. Feraligatr is going to be met with Lapras energy. I am going to no-shield. I'm already down a shield. It is going to be the Sparkling Aria, and I will barely get this farm down. Back in comes the Jumpluff, and I'm not baiting. I want to guarantee a knockout here or a shield Ice Beam. One hit KO. Down goes Jumpluff. It's Marowak in the back, and I will immediately be able to get the shield back from the Marowak. Switch clock not quite up, so I will have to surrender a farm down to my opponent, but Hakamo'o is bulky enough that in neutrals I should be fine here. I try for a catch, but that's just great patience from my opponent, not letting me get even an inch of advantage there, but they were still forced to waste 45 energy on that Talonflame, and I know my Hakamo'o is bulky enough to get the double up here. The Mud Slap that went through will not be enough to knock out. Hakamo'o withstands it, and despite an amazing lead, this game got very, very close in the end game. We move to the next match, and it's Rise again. The back-to-back Rise games. He's leading Corviknight. He safe switches Golisopod. I send in Hakamo'o, and oh my goodness, everything going right so far in this game. Corviknight, of course, will be just having an absolutely awful day against that Talonflame. Here, Golisopod is going to be firing off the Aqua Jet. That is going to get me very low. I can't afford to let him get a third move and force a shield, so I will just fire off the Dragon Claw. Unfortunately, my switch clock not up. I would have loved to save this move and pivot into the Feraligatr, but my switch clock is not available to me, so I'm just forced to concede the farm down. In the back, it's a Pokemon that instantly loses the game for me. It's Unova Stunfisk. I had such a great lead and swap, but by baiting out the dragon, he's now going to be able to sweep me because this team is really, really weak to electric. I shield up the discharge, but it looks like Rise is getting his revenge in this one. That is unfortunate. Most Pokemon in the meta I could have handled with a Talonflame Feraligatr combination. Unova Stunfisk, unfortunately, is not one of them. I'm farming up quite a bit with the Feraligatr. He is going to overfarm, trying to always get as much energy as he possibly can. This is a situation where Flame Charge would have been better, but overall, Fly Brave Bird is just a far better moveset. Flame Charge might help in a situational game or two, but realistically, I just think the synergy of Fly Brave Bird is just far, far better, because being able to stack a Fly plus a Brave Bird at 100 energy is just unbelievably good. Tough lead in the next match, Talonflame against Cradily. Now, ideally, I want this aligned against this Hakamo'o. So, I'm just going to try and make a play happen. I'm going to go straight for a Brave Bird, land it, and deal huge damage. Opponent trying to call a bait, but I threw it instantly. I thought it was going to be pretty obvious. I send in Feraligatr. I snipe down with Shadow Claws. Out comes Guzzlord, and this is not ideal for me whatsoever. Guzzlord is a pretty big problem for this team. The more I played this team, the more I realized that so many different Pokemon are problem Pokemon for this team. I believe my final results with the team were I went about even over the course of several days, so kind of low 2900s, upper 2800s for a few days, but the fact that I went even with it is something that I am pretty happy about, considering watching it back, I really don't feel like this team is a very complete team. There's a lot of matchups where it feels difficult to use. In the back is Shadow Sableye. This is another problem matchup for this team. Shadow Sableye, they are going to get the back-to-back moves, and that's a pretty big problem. Foul Play is going to be shielded. I'm firing off a Fly, and Sableye will get to land a Foul Play. So it's going to come down to this. Can the rank 2 Talonflame survive a Foul Play? Come on, Talonflame. We survive. In comes the Guzzlord. The Incinerate knocks out, and that's going to be a win. Guzzlord, a huge issue for the team, but we're able to fight back and take it. We move to the next match, going up against the trainer who would eventually become the first trainer in the world to hit Legend this season, Crescent Angels. Now, I don't have a good response to Dragonite with this team. That's another big problem. So I end up safe switching a Hakamo'o, and somehow I am not punished. Hakamo'o going to be answered with a Jellicent. Jellicent is going to be met with back-to-back Dragon Claws. Crescent Angels always going to look to overfarm in this matchup. Going to commit the shield. Can he get the farm down? Yes, he can. And this energy is going to be a huge issue. Sending in the Talonflame. I'm going to have to tank one. He's already at 2 surfs, so I am going to no shield, send in the Feraligatr, and I will respect against a potential Shadow Ball. It is going to be the Shadow Ball. In the back is the Powder Snow Alolan Sandslash, and I will overfarm and play to the CMP tie. We are at a pretty massive team comp disadvantage here, but the fact that he read it was Double Dragon and didn't bring in the Sandslash was very good news for me. Sandslash Drill Run is going to connect. That's some pretty significant damage. I'm looking for the farm down, but I can't get it. And I think that will seal my fate in this game. I'm forced to throw the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to be shielded. He's going to return fire with the Ice Punch. In comes the Talonflame, but he deferred the Incinerate onto the Jellicent. He did one Powder Snow and switched, which means that Sandslash is still alive. I can farm down the Dragonite, but by deferring the Incinerate, he takes the win with a 1 HP Sandslash. What a game and what a player. Wow, Crescent Angels is unbelievable. We move into the final match leading into a Corviknight, and they save switch Cradily, and we are back in familiar grounds here. Hakamo'o, I really thought it was an interesting idea, and I do think that being a Dragon Fighter has anti-meta play. The biggest area of concern for Hakamo'o, I think, is the fact that it's really not a flexible Pokemon. Hakamo'o does a really nice job at walling off Pokemon like Cradily, Drapion, Golisopod, all those Pokemon, it's going to completely shut down. But in those neutral matchups, it can feel quite underwhelming because it doesn't really have a high base damage move. Here, I'm going to pivot into Feraligatr, the play that I wanted to do against Rise, but my switch timer just wasn't quite available. And because I pivot out, now Corviknight is forced to stay in this matchup and play it out. I get to save the energy on Hakamo'o. So this was the original play pattern that I wanted to do. In the back, it ends up being Lapras. And Lapras will make life uncomfortable. As I mentioned, this team, we are triple weak to Lapras here, so it does make it uncomfortable. I'm able to land a Hydro Cannon, which is nice. This should be getting the final shield, or at least, sorry, the first shield from my opponent. I end up switching into the Talonflame as they fire off their energy. I actually get a sneak as well, which is quite nice, and I'm going to be firing off the Fly. Fly is going to be shielded up by the Lapras. Lapras going to look for a farm down, but they realize they can't get there. They're forced to fire off energy. I will commit the shield, and now the question is, will they switch? No, they stay in with their Lapras. Lapras just getting KO'd. In comes the Corviknight, and Corviknight just can never send attack down a Talonflame, and we're able to take the win. All in all, I had a lot of fun with Hakamo'o, but I think the team that I ran it with was very flawed. I consider going about even with a team more or less a failure. So to me, I think Hakamo'o does have legitimate anti-meta play. Dragon Fighting is a really interesting typing in this meta if you're looking to try and really hard punish a lot of those common safe swaps. But I think this was just not the right team to be built around it. I think if I built another team for Hakamo'o, I would start trying to make life very uncomfortable for 2 Pokemon. And that is Jumpluff, and that is Lapras. I think having a Psywave resist and being able to beat Jumpluff would be a pretty big plus. You might think Corviknight, but Corviknight actually loses the 2s to Shadow Jumpluff, so Corviknight wasn't something that I thought about using for more than a few seconds, because losing the 2s to Shadow Jumpluff is pretty unfortunate. So I think that's where I'd start if I try it again later on in the season. But I think it's a really interesting Pokemon. It's a Pokemon that I haven't really seen used, and I do think that it does have some merit as the meta more solidifies around some of these common safe swaps like Drapion, Golisopod, Cradily, and even Furret as well, because it is really positive matchups into all of them. Thank you everyone for watching the video, and an extra special thank you to our channel members. Your guys' support does mean the world, so I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.